A few months ago I made a video talking about the Sony A7 III and which lenses I use for it. Well, since then I've changed around what I use a little bit, perfected it if you will, trimmed the fat, got rid of what I'm not using, and added a couple of things back in too. So I want to use this video to talk to you about which full frame lenses I use, maybe which ones you want to consider using, and why I use them, their purposes, what they're used for, if there's any negatives involved with those lenses, and which potential lenses I could have got instead of those ones, but opted for these ones instead. So let's talk about it. So each one of these lenses has their own specific use. I use every single one on a regular basis. If I didn't, I'd end up selling it. Why bother holding on to something that you're not going to use that can give you money and you could put towards other stuff? A quick recap of who I am and what I shoot. If you're new to my channel and you have no idea, if you are new to my channel as well, welcome, it's good to have you. I shoot weddings, a little bit of commercial stuff, some small business things, travel films, family shorts that I do for myself, a lot of martial art events, Muay Thai, boxing, MMA, that kind of stuff, some basic vlogging, and of course YouTube videos, talking head segments, whatever these are called, I don't know, but stuff, content for YouTube. So that is what I shoot and what I use these lenses for. So if you shoot stuff similar to that, then this might be of use to you. Also, it's getting really dark. Let's brighten up a little bit. There we go. Let me preface this by telling you something that you probably already know if you started to look at Sony full frame lenses. They ain't cheap. Before I bought all these lenses, I did a ton of research. Like any normal person now, before you buy something, you don't just go to the shop and buy it. You go online, you read articles, you read reviews, you watch videos, you absolutely research the shit out of it. Because that's how we buy stuff now in 2018. So I weighed up a lot of the pros and the cons to spending more money to getting different quality glass or better quality glass or different features compared to saving a little bit of money and maybe not getting quite the same quality, quite the same features. So I'm always looking to spend less, but get the same quality features or as close to the same quality as features as I can without having to spend any more, if that makes sense. I'm sure you're all in the same boat as I am. Now also, I am talking about basics here, just using these lenses in their basic form. I'm not doing pixel peeping reviews or anything like that. So if you are looking for that, I'm sorry, head back up to the search bar and maybe search someone else. There's a lot of people that do good stuff like that, just not me. All right, let's get started. So I gotta swap the lenses out quickly because the first lens I'm gonna talk about is the one I use all the time and I'm filming on it right now. So let's swap to that right now. The Sony 1635 f4. I use this for a lot of different things, but the main thing that I use this for is when I'm on a gimbal or a stabilizer. I like my shots to look nice and wide when I'm on a gimbal, so I can go all the way to 16 for super wide, and you can go into 24, even if you want to go to 35, you can do that with this. It gives you the flexibility to go between. I also use this lens for documenting the day and for vlogging. So if I'm using the lens and pointing at something and talking into the mic, or if I'm vlogging, 16 is a really nice wide field of view for vlogging. All of the videos I shoot like this, apart from this one, because I have the lens right here. I'm using the 55 right now, but I use this for all of my YouTube videos. I like to have it nice and wide, sometimes at 16, sometimes a little bit closer at 20. For YouTube videos and for talking head stuff, it works really good. Another great use for this lens, it's a run and gun photo lens. If you're out and about, you need one lens for the day, this is the one you want to take with you. If you're shooting architecture, landscapes, pretty much anything wide, which is a lot of what I like to shoot, 1635. At 16, everything is super wide and everything looks really nice. Those landscape shots and looking up at buildings, that kind of stuff. At 16, perfect lens for this. And of course for portraits at 35 too. 35 is a very natural looking length. Popular length for portrait photography if you're out and about, street photography, that kind of thing. This lens gets that too. I called it the everything lens before because you can use it for everything. There is no limit to what you can use this lens for. Put it on your camera, take it out for the day, and it will cover everything you need it to cover. And more. It's the everything lens. I can guarantee you if I'm traveling, if I'm out for the day, this lens is going to be on my camera 90% of the time. I can get everything I want to get with this lens. So let's talk about the cons of this lens, the reason you might not want to get it. A lot of people are going to say f4 is not great for low light shots, and a lot of people will be right. However, if you're using the A7 III, you can crank the ISO all the way up to 10,000 and you really don't have any issues. There's not going to be a lot of noise and everything is completely usable. In my opinion, being able to use the ISO up to 10,000 or getting the f2.8 version and spending a lot more money, give me the f4. Now people are going to say the bokeh is not going to be as good on the f4 compared to the f2.8. And you know what, that's right. When you buy a 1635, you're not buying it for its crazy amount of bokeh. So really, do you need that little bit of extra? That being said, bokeh does exist on this. You just have to learn how to use it properly. Separate your subject a lot further away So have your subject close and have your background a lot further away. That's going to give you better bokeh. So you can get it on this. Honestly, if you can live with those two cons, it's going to save you a lot of money. Go with the F4. The F4 is $1,300 US. The 2.8 is $2,200. That's $900. That's a lot of money. 900 bucks. That is a trip somewhere. You can use the money you save to buy this lens to go on a trip and make some awesome content. Why not do that instead? Take my honest opinion, go with the F4. I'm very happy with it. I haven't once regretted getting this and wish I got the F2.8 instead. Yeah, just go with the F4, save that money. Okay, on to the next lens, which I shot this whole segment with. The Sony A7iii f1.8. So this is my newest and quickly becoming one of my favorite lenses that I'm starting to use a lot more and more on a lot of different projects. This lens can be used for anything where you have the ability to move around. And what I mean by that is moving in and out instead of having to zoom, because obviously it's a prime lens. So great for portrait shots, both photo and for video. Fantastic for B-roll if you want to get some really nice B-roll segments. Just blows out that background at f1.8. Detail shots at weddings or events if you want to show the scale of what's going on, some little details in the events, little things going on, people, that kind of stuff. Really great uses for this lens as well. You can use it for interviews, again, blows out that background. It also works really well for YouTube videos. So as you saw in the little segment I did on the 1635 a second ago, it gives a completely different field of view to this. The background just drops off completely. You can't see anything because it's got such a shallow depth of field. Something you don't get on the 1635 at f4. But at f1.8, it just disappears. So really nice view that some people really like. If that's the look you're going for, it's a really great lens for that. So this you can use for pretty much anything as long as you can walk around instead of having to move in and out. Now some of you might be thinking, well, why not go for the 24-70 Sony or the Tamron, the new Tamron 28 to 75 instead, and then you get a little bit of flexibility. You can zoom in instead of having to walk around. Well, I firmly believe the image on this is just so much superior to those lenses, having done a lot of research, that I'd rather use this. The image on this is just that much nicer that, in my personal preference, I just would rather use this. So that's the end of that discussion. My opinion, you don't have to agree, but I like a prime lens's look. It just looks so much nicer. Now 55 is obviously quite close to 85, which is another lens that I own too, but they're both used for completely different purposes. 55 is a very natural look, and what I mean by that, it's very close to what your eye sees. Because of that, you can walk around and get some very candid, very natural, real looking shots of pretty much anything when you have it on your camera. And that's part of the reason I really like it. Also for an 85, sometimes if you're in a little small room, you don't have a lot of space to move around, 85 might be too tight. You might not have enough space to get everything in your frame. So 55 gives you a little bit more room, works better. It's also small enough that if you wanted to, you can put it on a gimbal and give you some really sweeping cinematic shots with a blown out background at f2.8, so you can still focus a little bit, and it just looks really nice. It gives you an image that you wouldn't be able to get with a 1635 as that's in f4, and that background just disappears, so that's a nice thing. So yeah, it works completely fine on a gimbal if you wanted to as well. So the cost of this is $1,000. Now the step up from this, the other one that I considered is the 50mm Sony f1.4 planar, which is $1,500 US, so $500 more. Is it worth it? Some people might say yes, some people might say no. 0.4 of a stop more, which will give you more bokeh, more low light abilities. Just not worth that $500 in my opinion. With the A7 III again, that's why I went for this guy. Take my word, as of the 100 million other people that have reviewed this, this is a very good lens. Just save yourself that $500 and use that for something else. The only con of this lens, the only negative of this lens really is the minimum focusing distance. So that is the distance from which the lens will actually focus to your subject. Say my hand is the subject, you're not gonna be able to get too close. It takes quite a way back for you to be able to physically focus. So you're just not gonna be able to shoot macro shots. Don't do a lot of that anyway. But if you did, maybe don't go for this. Get a macro lens instead. So next up is the 85. Again, superb and low light, goes down to an f1.8. A beautifully built lens, nice and big. Gives you the buttery separation for your subject to f1.8. Isolates your subjects completely, and again, a great lens for use at weddings, events, anything where you just want that separation completely from the background. Give you that super cinematic look. For weddings, I use this off to the side, either the left or the right, focusing on either the bride or the groom, both of them in the center there. Just gives you a little bit of isolation between them and what's going on behind them. I just like that look that you get from this lens. 85 is obviously tighter than 55, so 55 sometimes isn't enough reach. 85 gives you that little bit of a bump. That's why it's good to have both. It's also another good lens for interviews and talking head segments if you have to be a little bit further back. Because it's an 85, it gives you a little bit more zoom. It does mean that you're also going to get more compression, which means more bokeh, which is a good thing. So the bokeh at f1.8 on the 85 is going to be better because of the compression than the bokeh at f1.8 on the 55. So bear that in mind. This will always have better bokeh. Also a great lens for B-roll because of that extra compression and better for bokeh. Peter McKinnon's B-roll Beast is an 85. This is obviously a Sony, not a Canon. But yeah, that's this lens, the 85. When you need it, only the 85 will do. Nothing else will do. The 55 won't suffice. So this is one of those lenses where when you want to use it, you know you're only using this and nothing else will work. Also, this lens is only 600 US. The one up from this is the Zeiss Batis 85, which is 1200, double the price. And when you look at all the reviewers online, there's a lot. The difference that you can tell between this and the Batis is negligible. So just don't spend that extra $600. You don't need to. I did the research for you. I'm telling you, you do not need to spend the extra $600. Get this, you'll be very happy. Cons of this lens, I don't have any. Some people don't like primes because you have to move in and out. I really like it. It's such a good lens. No cons at all. And then finally, the Sony A7iii f4. The lens I probably use the least in comparison to my other lenses, but I still use it. And at the same time, it's one of those lenses that I just couldn't live without. This is the sniper lens. The lens where you stand at the back and you get exactly what you need to get without people seeing you, without people hearing you, you're not in the way. It's the sniper lens. At weddings, you could set this up right at the back, off to the side, and film the entire thing, and no one's gonna see you. Same thing for speeches at an event, or if you're filming an event and there's someone talking, you can stand right at the back. Everyone that's watching that person talk, you're not stood right in their way, you're not annoying them, you're out the way, and you're getting what you need to get. You cannot get the same results from this using any of the other lenses that I've talked about today. You just don't have that reach, and sometimes you need it. You can still have bokeh 2 people with the A7iii f4. When you are zoomed in at 200, the compression is so large that the bokeh is just fantastic. Your background just disappears into nothing. It's so nice. Now, I'm not into it myself, but this is also a popular lens for using for sports photography, again, where you're off on the sideline, for wildlife photography if you're shooting animals or birds, and you don't want to disturb them. That's this lens. When you need to be undetected and you don't want anyone knowing you're there, A7iii. It's also a great lens for portraits, very unique in terms of the look that it gives off. At 200, you can zoom right into a person, get them nice and crisp, and completely blow out the background, but the background still looks huge because of the compression. So it's a really nice, unique look that you can get from this that you can't get from anything else. So don't underestimate this for portraits. So there are two Sony A7iii that you can get, the f2.8 and then this, the f4. The cons of this lens, kind of similar to what I talked about with the 1635, you only have f4. But with the Sony A7 III, you can bump up to 10,000 ISO, just as I said before, and completely compensate for the fact of not having the f2.8 version, if that's what you want, in terms of low light. You'll be amazed at the bokeh this produces at f4 at 200mm. Do you really want to spend the extra money and buy the 2.8 for probably not a lot of difference in bokeh? My opinion, no, and that's why I went with this one. So this is 1500 US, the f4 version, and the f2.8 version is 2600 US. I just saved you $1,100. You're welcome. So that is what I'm using on my Sony A7 III right now as of October 2018. This is what I believe is the perfect lens selection for the Sony A7 III when it comes to using full frame lenses. I talked about the reasons why I think these are the best ones and why you really don't need to spend money to buy the GM versions or the higher end versions. Save that money, invest it into something else, or just don't have to save up as much money to buy those lenses because they're super expensive, as we all know. Hope that helps you. Hope you took something away from it today. I appreciate you watching. If you have any other questions, hit me up down below. I'll do my best to respond to everything as long as it's positive. If you're posting negative, I will just ignore you. Giving you the forewarning now. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya. Can you hear that plane? I can. I don't know if you can. It's really annoying.